Hello, and welcome to another edition of the American Scouser podcast. We are here to preview and discuss the first leg fixture against Bayern Munich at Anfield. Um, Tonight we have, I'm Hilary, and we have Timucin, and we have a new person to discuss the game tonight, Debrai.
Yes, that's perfectly pronounced.
Oh, awesome.
Love
Um,
it.
and rarely happens.
oh, okay. Well, we're excited to talk about the game with you. So I thought to start, we would discuss and clarify a little bit the injury list and talk about our potential lineups, and why we're choosing them and where we kind of think the game is going to go. Um, because like since the draw, it's kind of been like this weird torture knowing that for the first leg we weren't going to have Virgil van Dijk, and then it's been so long, it's been like 10 weeks, and there's been injuries, there's been recoveries, and then more injuries, and so it's all been up in the air. And so now we get to discuss the whirlwind coming down for the game tomorrow. So for Liverpool, who do you see in the lineup? Let's start with you, Debrai.
Sure. Well, I think the front three picks itself, except there are reports today that maybe Firmino might not be healthy to go. So hopefully they'll prove to be false and we'll be able. For my midfield, I would pick Milner, Wijnaldum, and Henderson. I think some people would pick Keita, but I'm not quite ready to trust him in a big game like this yet. And as you alluded to, I think the back four is where we really have to struggle. Hoping Trent Alexander-Arnold will be available on right back, Andy Robertson left back, and it looks like not because it's the preferred option. I think the last best option is going to be Fabinho and Matip playing as center halves, and I think that's going to be the biggest question about tomorrow is whether or not they can hold up against Bayern, and of course Allison in goal.
Yeah, that back line sounds like the only choice, really. What about you, Tim?
I think I agree. I think, if anything, I might substitute Keita for Milner. Really depends on what we're going after here or what Klopp is going after. If we're going after making sure that we do not get scored on and give them that away goal, I agree with Debray. I think it is going to be, I know it's not a popular choice, but this is the same trio that took us to the final last year. So it's kind of like a more controlled, maybe not the most creative, but more controlled, hardworking, disciplined defensive midfield of Genie, Hando, and Milner, and that kind of gives you the option of bringing Keita or Shaqiri off the bench.
Right.
Like further down the game. If you're going out to, if you feel like, Bayern is vulnerable and you kind of have that much faith in that defense right now, you might put Keita instead of Milner. But I agree with Debra. I don't think you roll that dice. Away goals are a killer. We took advantage of them last year in Champions League, so you do not want to give that away goal to Bayern. I think it scored, especially with our front three and how we can break on the counter. Even if you go to Germany with a draw, with Van Dijk back in the lineup and everything like that, I have more confidence that we will definitely get an away goal as opposed to trying to win away over there and stuff like that. So I agree. I think it's going to be like I said, not the most popular choice by many probably, but I think it's probably the safest choice, especially when you only have Fabinho and Matip in the center of defense.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I I would have to agree on almost all of that. Except I do think that Keita will start. Um, I personally think that um, what he can bring to the game and shake up their midfield is going to cause a lot of problems. And I also think that I know it's not like that big of a deal, but he did play against them last season. He scored a goal in his last game against them. And I would just really think that with the momentum that he's been having in the last couple of games, it's a real boost to his confidence. And I think that this is the type of game for him to come in and really make a difference, and show us what he's got. So I kind of see him starting. I'll be a little disappointed if he doesn't, but I do, because I do think that Milner and that trio are definitely good enough to start, and we would be in good hands. But yeah, that's kind of where I stand on that. Are there any players in the Bayern lineup that you're really like? Who's the player that you're most afraid of? And I think we all have the same answer, but I was gonna ask it anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I think it has to be Lewandowski. He is prolific. He scores important goals in important moments, and he's gonna be. He might be salivating at the prospect of going up against Matip and Fabinho. In comparison to what he might have had. So I think he's the danger man, but I think, they have danger all over the pitch. I think David Alaba, from his position in the back, is a very dangerous player for them. He scores goals from that position on a regular basis. But I will say this. You asked the question, who scares you? And I would say I think Lewandowski is probably the main gun for me. But I don't think this Bayern team scares me as a whole. If we had our first choice defensive pairing, not to sound overconfident, but I think there's a decent chance we could really give them a good smashing, because we'd have a really strong foundation. This is not the Bayern team from last year or the year before. I believe right now they've conceded 26 goals from, I think, 22 matches, and last year they conceded 28 goals from 34 matches, a full Bundesliga season. They're in second place. They have a lot of uninspired results throughout the year. They've been better of late, and I just wish that we had our first choice players available, particularly in the back. I think if we did, I really would like our chances for really applying. I don't want to say the death blow, but a serious blow to them heading to Munich.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, let's face it, if Van Dijk is there, it's almost like a huge boost to our chances automatically. I mean, you're missing the most important person out of that back four. And that, obviously Lewandowski, I agree, is probably the biggest threat, especially with the center pairing. He's a smart guy. I mean, he's a vet, so he will be, unfortunately, the ideal person to take advantage of a duo that's not experienced playing together and stuff like that in terms of creating, spaces. But let's face it, even if Van Dijk was there, Lewandowski would be on the side wherever Van Dijk is not. Kind of like every team kind of does now, like they put it on whoever, their top, their 9 kind of slides over to, whoever the other person is. Whoever is not Van Dijk is when they slide over to. But yeah, that's the thing that scares me is, you don't have a 2 back there that is cohesive, and they're playing against somebody who's very experienced and can take advantage of that. I mean, not every, I wouldn't probably feel the same way about every player. I mean, like I've been reading online, people are like, well, Fabinho did good against Wolves and stuff. Well, this is not Wolves. And that's what, this is my biggest fear. I mean, they have speed on the outside. They have Lewandowski in the middle. And that is why, going back to the first question, I think we will feel that midfield that's going to try to control the game. So that we don't give him those chances, so that we don't give him that very important away goal.
Yeah, so touching on that was kind of going into my next question. So we might have kind of answered it a little bit, but I was going to kind of ask if you, just because it seems like their midfield is, aging with the dinosaurs, and they're really mistake prone right now and just inconsistent in general. And then I'm not midfield, their back line, and our back line is, like we've said, not our first or even our second choice, really. So is this game going to come down to like small margins and finishing, or will it be all about the matchup in the midfield? And one player that y'all did not mention was James, who is, other than Louis, the one player that would probably scare me the most with his creativity in midfield. So yeah, what do y'all think about what kind of game it's going to turn out to be?
Well, I think like a lot of Champions League matches, particularly at this stage, I expect the first 20 minutes to be cagey. I don't think, particularly given our back line, I don't think we're going to be over adventurous in the first 20 minutes or so. But I think that we're playing at home, and if we can manage the first 20 minutes, we don't concede, we get a hold of the game. I would like us to be a little, aggressive and take the game to them. I think that's Liverpool's identity, and it's when we play our best is when we're on the front foot, moving the ball quickly, players exchanging spaces, using our speed and width, which is why I'm really glad we have Trent back. And so I think, again, first 20 minutes I think will be cagey, controlled. And then I think if the game is going well, I see us taking a more aggressive posture.
See, it's odd you say that. I would think that would be exactly what Bayern would be thinking too. I almost feel
Yeah.
like with the fans going nuts, especially in the beginning with that atmosphere, I think like a fast start is what we would really need. But going back to, I mean, I do agree, to play the devil's advocate with the midfield, we're saying that's going to be a problem fielding. I don't know how bogged down we'll be able to get him and go at him, but I think those three will control that midfield and we'll keep getting the ball back, and that will help us put some pressure on there. And then you have that front three, and they can always create and be dangerous. I mean, if Firmino's out there, I think we'll be out there. It's too important of a game for him to not be out there. Those guys will create a chance and get their goals. I almost hope for like a fast start. I feel like as we give him more time, you're gonna let Bayern get more and more comfortable, and they're gonna be more dangerous. I almost feel like this is gonna be. I'm hoping more of like a last year's Liverpool, kind of like a gegenpressing, trying to get the ball right back and not letting Bayern kind of get comfortable. At least that's my hope. I don't know if it's gonna pan out that way, but that's my hope because I feel like they have enough quality where if we give him time, like a player like Hamas, for example, can pick you apart. So you just almost like let him breathe, just go full at him. Hopefully, take advantage of the home fields and get an early goal in and get that defense rattled because they can be rattled. And then hopefully we can focus on that.
Yeah, and maybe my comments are based on, I don't know if it's fear or just shock at the central defensive pairing we're going to put out tomorrow. That's just such a huge unknown. And who knows? Fabinho, he seems to have really settled in and he's shown that he can play multiple positions. Maybe they'll do okay. But I think some of my concern is just, without so much of our identity this year and our success this year has rested on having that solid spine, and I think tomorrow it's going to be an open question. The second point I'd make, and I don't disagree with most of what you said, but even last year, if you remember against Roma, the first 20 minutes or so, Roma probably had the better of the game. They almost scored a couple of times, and we sort of sat in and sort of got acclimated to the speed of the game and the tactics of the opponent, and then then the rest is history. So we do have a history of smashing teams at Anfield on European nights, but it's not always been, even under Klopp, smash and grab in the first 20 minutes. So we'll have to see. I think there are a lot of question marks tomorrow. There's a lot of unknowns, and I'm mixed. I'm excited, but a little nervous as well.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because just from what I've seen, watching Bayern Munich for as long as I have, since it's sort of in the family, and kind of paying some attention to them this season. I think that if if we even have like 80% of our team unity, and when we see the team out there like being with their cohesion, and just when everything is kind of locking into place, we're steps above them as far as that kind of thing on our, not even our best day, because that's one of the things that they struggle with, is that they're a team of individuals that sometimes play as a team together. So kind of going to the broader part of what this game means for Liverpool, what is the significance of this round of 16 for us, with everything that happened last year, and with our title run in the league, sort of where we have our eye on first place. I don't know, we're not really there, but we kind of are, but not really. What is the significance of this draw, playing Bayern Munich and potentially either advancing or getting knocked out of Champions League?
That's a great question. I think I could give like 5 different answers to that, and and some of them would be completely contradictory, But I would go back to basics, and that is, I think success begets success. We had a little bit of a tough period over the last several weeks where we didn't perform that great. We dropped some points that we probably shouldn't have dropped. We played well last weekend. And now we have a chance to push on and, really getting a good result tomorrow, I think builds team confidence. And I think that'll spill over into our performances in the league, especially the big game coming up this Sunday. So I think number one, it's significant from the standpoint of our confidence. And number two, we're a club with, tremendous, pedigree in Europe. And I think that we want to put in a great performance. And I don't think this club wants to go out in the round of 16, although I understand the position that, the further you get, the more strain it puts on your resources for the title run. So I think that, it's an important match. I think the most important thing, maybe even more than the result, is to play really well so that the team really regains its swagger. And, I think maintaining our European tradition, I think, of doing well in this competition, I think it will only augur well for our biggest goal. I think it has to be said, which is to maintain our Premier League chase.
Yeah, it's a totally different field than last year, isn't it? Like, it was every Champions League game, it was more like all or nothing, and it was like the most important thing of all time at any given game, because that's the only thing we had going. Now with the league going and going well, obviously, it's kind of like a toss-up. I mean, I think Klopp talked about it today in his press conference, that if you ask any Liverpool fan, and if it was a possible trade-off, and I'm included in this, I will give you this round to Bayern if that guaranteed the title. And,
two hands up.
But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that, of course. So, but I think in the bigger scheme of things, in terms of like the big picture, it's important that we go past this round, to show that last year was not a fluke. This team is going to be a team that's going to be continue to build and be like a superpower in the Champions League for a long time, which will help recruiting and everything like that, as opposed to going out in this round. I think will almost make last year seem more flukish, to other players, to fans in general, in terms of your overall image in the big picture kind of thing. So, and I mean, it's not the most favorable matchup. I mean, there were other teams obviously would be, we could have been facing Schalke instead of Bayern, for example. But I mean, part of me, like last year, if we lost in the Champions round, any game, I'd be devastated. Part of me says, hey, there's still the league. I think there's always something to fall back on. But in the big scheme of things, I think it's important that we continue to progress in this Champions League. Who, every top player wants to be in the Champions League. This is their thing. So if you want to continue to recruit, build on what you have. We have a young squad that's locked in for a while. If you want to keep adding pieces and keep improving, keep luring those guys at like reasonable wages with the goal of or the hope of winning the Champions League, it's important that you kind of like are in the top or in the last few rounds every year on a consistent basis, hopefully winning it, as opposed to like like I say, that be my biggest fear is making last year look like a fluke if we
Yeah.
go early.
Yeah,
If I can say just a couple quick points. One is, if we win tomorrow night, or if we get a good result tomorrow night, um, that means that we can really rely on our squad, because you definitely have a couple squad players in there, and that's been the big question mark for us this year versus Man City. Nobody questions our starting 11 or even our top 12 or 13 players, but the question has been, do we have the quality and depth beneath that? And if we can win against a team like Bayern, albeit not a vintage Bayern nonetheless, with Fabinho and Matip at playing center half, I think that means really positive things for our club moving forward. And in addition, I think that Bayern Munich are, a traditionally very strong European team. And when they come to Liverpool tomorrow, I know they haven't gone great guns in the Bundesliga this year. Although, to be honest with you, I was looking at their results yesterday. They've been doing much better the last month and a half. Um, they're going to come in with everything that they've got. And I think if we can win against a team like that under those conditions, I think that means a lot for us.
yeah, definitely. I agree with those points. So as far as like where I kind of stand on some of that is that I think that like last year's final, it always kind of feels like we were robbed a little bit of a real like of even though we were kind of there with like you know a lot of the guys that got us there were injured and we didn't quite have everyone up to 100%. Mo Salah going out when he did in the game, and then just kind of to have it fall apart the way that it did. And now we're going into the knockout rounds with so many of these injuries to our key players or the suspension and things like that. For me, I want to see our team play with all the guys at their best, no injuries, and really see that because people were afraid to get Liverpool, but they're not really afraid of this team that's probably gonna to the same extent that's gonna take the pitch tomorrow. And so I think that Ox coming back and getting Joe Gomez paired back up with Virgil van Dijk, it's going to be amazing to see that team play together. I know Ox probably won't start or get too many games, but for me, I just want to see them go far enough in Champions League to see that team take the field, and to see those games play out. And I also wish that we would be the last English team in the tournament, but at least if we can get farther than United, I'll be happy.
And actually, it's odd that when you look at Bayern's situation, it's almost like they're on the opposite end of things, aren't they? Where with Borussia Dortmund getting hammered by Tottenham, they're pretty much gone. So they can, and I know they didn't get a great result today; they just tied away. But they can now just fully focus on the Bundesliga, and Bayern is kind of like in the chasing mode. So this kind of is their bigger prize for them, I would think, right now, knowing they're playing the chaser in Bundesliga, and Dortmund is gonna be able to now just focus on that. So it's almost like the flip side for them. The thing about the squad is, I mean, we're pretty much out of everything else at this point. We feel like the squad isn't enough. Then it was kind of like I think it was kind of like we misjudged this squad beginning of the year, especially going forward. I think. I mean, I don't blame like as we prepare for the season when you put up the roster. I mean, you're not gonna plan on so many center backs being injured at the same time and things like that. But I think some of the people we relied on up front, like maybe Sturridge or he kind of was not able to. They were not able to give us what we kind of expected going in. So now we're kind of back to where we were maybe a year ago, where you had the front three over there. I mean, Shaqiri can come in, off the midfield and stuff like that, but there's nobody to replace Rest or provide something else up front, unless it's the 95th minute versus Everton. So it's and that's I think like where we misjudged our roster in some ways, or we're just not getting what we thought we would out of a player like Sturridge, for example. In the beginning of the year, we were like, okay, this is exactly what we wanted, and
Yeah.
then it just like, fizzled away.
Well,
Boy, yeah.
the same would be said for our new signings. I mean, people were drooling over Naby Keita and Fabinho, and it took a while. It's taken a while for them to be integrated in the squad. And as I wrote a blog recently about it, no one saw Gini Wijnaldum coming.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's been a lot of surprises and really, really unexpected things happening in regards to like that stuff this season. But I still feel like Sturridge has another really great banger, and maybe he'll have the winning goal tomorrow. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, he did against Paris Saint-Germain, so not the winning goal, but definitely a very important goal.
Yeah, definitely. So with goals in mind, if we've kind of stepped back from those broad thematic tones and our ideas for how the games and the rest of Champions League is going to go, let's focus back in on the score predictions for tomorrow's game. Let's start with you, Tim. What is your prediction for at the end of 90?
Man, that's a tough one. I go with semi-optimistic, and as always, my classic pessimistic approach. But I say we win, but we win like 3-1. So still leaving the door open for Bayern in the second game. So we're not like, we're not sailing clear yet. But I feel like we will get that win at home tomorrow. But I still think Bayern at least gets one away goal.
So that was 2-1 or 3-2?
3-1.
3-1. Okay.
3-1. Let's go with that.
Okay.
Oh, over to me. I agree with Tim. That is a tough one. We're going to concede goals. I just kind of feel it. I think we're going to score goals. I'm going to go with a score of 3-2 on Liverpool. And I'll be a little nervous going into the second leg, having conceded 2 goals away. I mean, yeah, two away goals, but yeah. I don't like that. I don't like my prediction, and I hope it's not true.
Well, I am going to come in with some real optimism here and say 4-1.
Damn.
I like it. I like your prediction better.
And that actually reminds me, because I'm now seeing in my notes, I totally forgot to talk about something. The fact that Andy Robertson and Joshua Kimmich are both on cards, and they're going to be going head-to-head against each other. So that side of the pitch is going to be really interesting to watch. I'm on it. Like, I honestly, that's probably my biggest fear is Robertson going out, not being able to play in the next game, and so we get Albi Marino.
Oh God. Oh yeah.
See, that's a good question. If something like that happens, would Moreno start as left back, or would we go old school and put Milner as left back?
I mean, it has to be Milner, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
I
I
mean, for
mean,
sanity, yeah, but
I mean,
I mean,
isn't that what
yeah,
that kind of is what happened last time when he had to play was he ended up kind of staying as like a higher winger and you had Henderson and Milner tracking back to kind of I can't remember what game that was, but he
yeah,
barely
you're right.
came back except on like really obvious like he definitely didn't have like the normal fullback role in that game. So yeah, I think it would definitely be Milner now that you say that. But let's hope it doesn't come to that.
Yeah, that's nightmare stuff. I mean, and Andy Robertson. I mean, aggression is one of the things I love about him. Um, he's aggressive defending. He's aggressive attacking. He's aggressive running. My guess is he's probably aggressive even when he's going grocery shopping. I mean, the guy's just, super aggressive, and you don't want to take that away from him. And, in Europe, they call fouls, tighter than they do in the Premier League. They give yellow cards out more handily. We saw that a little bit last week in one of the CL matches. So, I think it's a very valid concern that you raise, and I think we'll all be crossing our fingers.
Yeah, it's interesting because Kimmich is not known particularly for his defensive ability. He likes to stay higher up the pitch, and so I think that that's actually a really good. That might be something where we end up getting some opportunities from that side. So hopefully, it won't come to anything too well for yellow cards. But that's also another point is that they are using VAR now.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So we do have that going for and against us. But yeah. So, okay, just to go back over this, we have a 3-1, 3-2, and a 4-1.
we're
It's a lot of
definitely
goals.
for a lot of goals tomorrow. I mean, especially pretty much all of us are in agreement that more than likely it's gonna be the boring trio, as everybody would call it. I know, if Keita plays like Hilary says, I think, offensively it will help a lot, but I'm just afraid of, defensively where that will leave us with Fabinho back there. But yeah, I feel like that's probably the biggest thing, especially going into the away game as well, that we have going for ourselves is both their right back and left back love pushing up and
Yeah.
sometimes not very disciplined. And that leaves a ton of space behind him. And, Roma found out how that can be painful.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping more of the same where we kind of take advantage of that. Just listening to Klopp today, it almost sounded like they've spent a lot of time preparing for this game. He rarely mentions about, like working on specifics and stuff like that. So I'm hoping like we've done some things to create those spaces behind so that we can use Salah and Mane's pace back there, and that's why I think I can see both those players being in a yellow card ban next game.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if Kimmich is going to be able to stop Mane on that side, who's been, probably in the, best form lately of going forward. And then same with Robertson, like, as the guy is saying, he just the way he plays, I can see, especially in Europe, him getting a yellow card.
Yeah. One of the things for tomorrow, I think as well, is we conceded a couple of regrettable set piece goals against Leicester and West Ham, and that was even with Virgil in the team, but with a different back line than our typical back line. And so one of the things I'm hoping for as part of this planning that Tim alluded to is that we don't give up a soft goal or a tactically ill-disciplined goal, that we make Bayern earn their goals in a way that I don't think we have done as much recently. I think that'll be one of the talking points of the game as well.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like I said, my biggest fear is, you're playing somebody. out of position and totally out of position in terms of the line they play in. It's not like, playing a center back as a right back or whatever. Defenders
Yeah.
tackle a different way, midfielders tackle a different way, and there's a reason why they call it a forward tackle. So, I mean, a couple of times, you've seen Fabinho there. He's coped well, but there are times in the game where he makes a midfielder tackle, whereas you can't afford it as a center back. It's
Yeah.
just, you go in, you take the body or the ball, because there's nobody behind you. Whereas as a midfielder, you kind of have that luxury to somebody, to come in and sweep behind you. So
Yeah.
I'm just hoping, we don't get into one of those situations. And hopefully the midfield will protect that back four. And then we're really going to rely on the front three to create and get those goals for us tomorrow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll just say that, they've been given a very tough assignment. I mean, Matip and Fabinho, assuming, of course, that's what happens, which is what everybody expects. I mean, that's a really tough assignment. So I don't mean to sound sort of critical of them if they make a mistake. There's a part of me that thinks some mistakes are just natural when you're have that pairing for the first time in a game of that magnitude against a strong opponent. So I expect there to be mistakes, and hopefully, as you said, more often than not, they'll have adequate cover to minimize those mistakes. But things like set piece defending, I just think, I think those are things that hopefully we can do better on tomorrow. And as you said, we've talked a lot about our own weaknesses at the back today, but you know, we have a lot to offer that they should be scared of as well.
Yeah, definitely. And they have a lot of weaknesses at the back as well. But as far as the team like tracking back or like helping with some of that defensive stuff, I mean, it seems like we've been gearing up all season to kind of have people step into those roles, not step into new positions, but to step into a more defensive role throughout the game. In fact, it's been kind of a point of contention for some people since the style of play has kind of shifted. So I definitely think that it's really going to be a team game. Like I said, having that unity out there on the pitch. And I think it's going to be really, really exciting. I don't see it being a 0-0 draw at all. Or 1-1 even. I do see lots of goals. Um, with that in mind, do we want to touch a little bit on the weekend or keep it at Champions League for this
Let's go one step at a time. But let me ask you guys this. I mean, like, I would like to pick your guys' brain on this. Would you guys rather have Fabinho back there or a Lovren at 70%?
Um, I, you know what? I'm going to do the smart thing. I'm going to let Hilary answer that question first.
Um, honestly, I think that with Robertson on one side and Trent on the other, and if we have um Henderson and Milner, I feel more comfortable with Fabinho and Matip, I think. Um, just because I don't think that Lovren has had enough playing time. Uh, and I would rather have that dynamic uh kind of working like them all just kind of working together. Because he hasn't played since like the first week of January, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that game where he kind of like left in what was like the 10th minute or something like that. It was very early in the game.
It was like, yeah, like the fourth minute. um yeah, so I would definitely go with Fabinho. And yeah, I think I would, yeah, totally.
I agree. I think Fabinho has been over the last few months, without necessarily being, a without necessarily putting in world-class performances, I think he's been very solid. He's been fairly consistent. Um, and I think I would trust 100% fit Fabinho over 70% fit Lovren. And Lovren's performances can also really vary based on who he's played with lately. Um, and in some ways, I think that almost be more of a risk, not just his fitness, but he just hasn't played in a long time. And I don't think he's played with Matip very much at all this year. So I think for all those reasons, I think we're better off with Fabinho.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that, Lauren not playing tomorrow almost guarantees that he will be there on Sunday. I mean, that should ideally be the trade-off. If that wasn't the
Yeah.
case, I would roll the dice in this game and have him go out there. But I feel like, I think personally, I would have rather have Lauren there. I think he's better suited to battle against somebody like Lewandowski. Number
Mm,
one,
yeah.
obviously that's his natural position, and he is very erratic, but he has a way of kind of like rising in bigger games and playing his best games usually at some of these big games where he has to take care of somebody, big. I mean, we saw it in the World Cup as well. He kind of like
Yeah.
sometimes rises to the occasion. I know he gets a lot of flack, and he's not the best center back, but I
Best
mean,
defender in the world, I
he's
thought.
yeah. I mean, according to him, yeah. but I feel like, I think I would rather have him go at it. The biggest fear of that is, having a flashback where in the fourth minute he's on the ground and we're having to use his
Yeah.
burner substitution 4 minutes in the game. All, we have to change every plan and stuff like that. So I don't anticipate him going out there just because of that. But just wanted to
Yeah.
think, wanted to see what you guys thought, which one you guys would prefer.
Yeah. That's a provocative question. Um,
It's
because
what I do.
you're right. I mean, it's because we're basically saying we'd rather have a defensive midfielder playing center back than Lovren at 70%. And I don't know. That's an answer I would have given 4 or 5 months ago. Um, so, yep.
My answer would be completely different if it was Joe Gomez. Um, I think it's just because it's Matip, and I feel like they both are prone to those kinds of mistakes or getting uneasy. Um, and so, yeah, I think Fabinho it will have more of a bit of that calm and just from having been playing, in form and being at 100%.
And Fabinho's played, important Champions League matches with Monaco. So he's been in these big matches before. I don't think it will phase him in terms of the occasion. But the rest of it, we'll just have to find out.
Yeah. Do you have any other questions, Tim?
Any other? No, nothing that comes off the top of that. This is one of those very interesting games. I don't think we had a game like this in the Champions League, even in the later rounds, where we really did not know what to expect. And this time, I actually, part of like from the opponent too, I really don't know what to expect. I mean, we kind of knew what we were getting from Roma. Obviously, City we knew very well, and then Real. I really don't know him, and this is a team that is very top quality, but it's not playing their best. Kind of sounds like somebody, us. So we're not playing our best either. It's more like it's going to be a matter of who kind of puts it together tomorrow. And I really think with that, established midfield and with those fans at Anfield, we will be the team hopefully to put it together and get the win.
Who do you guys think will be the goal scorers for us tomorrow?
Well, I think Sadio Mane will get a brace. I think that Salah will get a goal, and I think Keita will get a goal because I said 4.
Yeah, I said 3. I would think it would be Mane and Salah that's going to give him the most trouble because they're going to find those spaces behind. They're going to be able to make those runs. So I expect the goals to come from those guys, especially if we're thinking about the midfield, we're talking about, I think the goals will have to come from the front three, and I really feel like it's going to come from Mane and Salah.
Well, to answer my own question, I'm going to deviate from that a little bit. We haven't gotten enough goals from midfield lately, but tomorrow night I'm backing Gini Wijnaldum to score a goal, and I think will be Salah and Firmino with the other two tomorrow night.
Yeah, I actually was on Reddit earlier today, and I saw someone comment that since Bobby, it was in the news that he had a virus, that if he plays, like if he starts or if he gets subbed on, he's going to score a goal, and his celebration is going to be mimicking being sick on the field. Because last time he did the eye thing. And so I'm just really looking forward to seeing Bobby on the field either way. But yeah, I would love a Bobby Firmino goal all the time, always.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah.
If Firmino is not able to go tomorrow, who do you guys think will replace him?
Ooh, good one.
Do we stay with the 4-3-3?
I think we put Shaqiri in there, and use Salah where Firmino would be in the center. I don't think we put after what we saw in the last few games. I don't think we roll the dice with Sturridge or Origi up front in that front position in Firmino's spots. I think we put Shaqiri in like a wing, and have Salah, like basically roam the middle.
I would agree.
Yeah, I think that's the most sensible choice. I mean, I think you could argue that again against Paris Saint-Germain when Firmino I don't think was able to start that game, and Sturridge came in and he scored a goal, but we haven't seen that Sturridge performance since September. Since actually he scored a great goal against Chelsea. I don't know.
Chelsea, yep.
Yeah, so I don't know if that was in August or in September after the PSG game. I don't remember right now, but it's been 6 months, and I just don't have trust in the guy. How many years have we said, boy, if we could just get him fit and get him a run of games, because the guy has quality, he's got talent. But I think at this point, I think we've all learned that it's just foolhardy to depend on him, and it's kind of sad because I think the guy is really, underperformed his talent over the course of his career.
Yeah, definitely, and that's what's disappointing. You have somebody like on the bench, beginning of the season, especially the way he started the season. The goal was, we have a super sub there.
Yeah.
Folks who can come in who is world class and bring something totally different to the game. His style is different than Firmino, but yeah, that guy just disappeared. And like you said, the last couple of times he did get playing time. I mean, to me, he just looked disinterested, not into it. And I know everybody says, you got to get a run of games. That's like the defense for like Keita sometimes when he wasn't performing and stuff. But you earned that run of games. You earned the run of games by your performance, by your work rate, by your work ethic. You earned that run. I mean, obviously, I'm assuming, whatever Keita is doing at practice is earning him that, playing time that has gotten, better as it goes along. And obviously, Klopp has not seen that from Sturridge. You just don't get freebies in this level of football. You got to kind of like earn your playing time on the field by, what you do. And it might be fair, it might be not. You might be only getting 10 minutes to show yourself. But when you're out there for 10 minutes, you got to make sure you make that 10 minutes look like 90 by your work rates and what you do and, your approach to the game. Like I say, the last couple of times I saw he just was going around like he's too cool for school, and that's not how you're going to get playing time on any team, leave alone a Klopp team.
Yeah.
Just as you were saying that, I couldn't help but picture Lallana coming on and then getting that head injury.
Oh.
And then like having to sit out for like more than half the time he was in for the game. Do you see him on the pitch for any amount of time tomorrow?
Well, I guess if we need some creativity in the second half, we're down a goal. Who do you have? Especially if Firmino's out and you start Shaqiri, then you're scraping the bottom of the barrel. And that sounds really mean, I guess. But I think Lallana hasn't really done much for a long time. It's just hard for me to imagine him making an impact tomorrow. The guy's had a lot of injuries. He hasn't had much playing time. And I think if he is on, I think will be a little bit of a sign of desperation on our part, and a sign certainly that the game's not going well.
Yeah.
I almost see it the opposite, actually. If you see Adam tomorrow, you're probably leaning back on the couch because we have the lead and he's out there to kind of like run around because the midfield is worn out, giving Milner or somebody a rest the last 10 minutes is the only scenario I would see him in. Because, I mean, in the lineup that I'm thinking we're going to field, Keita is that person that's going to come off the bench to add some creativity. The second person I would bring in, if you need offensive power, if you need goals, is probably going to be Origi over Lallana. So, like I say, if you see Adam out there tomorrow, late in the game, more than likely things are going well.
That's, you know what? I thought I was being mean, but that's a really damning indictment of Lallana right there. In the sense that you're saying that the only situation you could see him coming in is not to create chances, not to possibly score a goal, not to impact the game positively, but just to run around and help to wind down the clock a little bit. I mean, how far has that guy fallen?
That's going to run and work hard, win balls back for you. I mean, it's the ideal person to have, I think, to close out games because he can win the ball for you, he can hold the ball for you, and he can still create. I mean, the guy's a great player. I mean, his injuries have kind of doomed him.
Just all the kind of assist, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
The offside. Yeah.
So, like I say, in that sense, I think he's like the ideal person to bring in to be able to do all those things. And, you bring somebody like Mane or Salah out who is probably worn out by then and might not be able to track back as much. And you put Lallana over there, he's going to track back, he's going to win balls for you. And then, he's not going to be as deadly going forward. But at that point, hopefully, that's not what you're looking for.
Yeah. Oh, I see. I mean, I can see that use of him in a way, and that use of him in that situation would not mean, as you said, that the game is going badly. It's just not what I think of when I think of Lallana in the way that when he first joined Liverpool, you didn't think of him as, as that type of player. But that was many years ago.
That was done, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do we have any other thoughts to close out the podcast?
I just have prayers. Let's get this win tomorrow and just move on. Move on to Sunday.
Yeah, I think we can learn a lot tomorrow. I think if we perform better defensively than what we think, that means we've got a squad, and I think that'll augur well not just for this Champions League, but for our Premier League chase, which, let's face it, is everyone's number one priority this year.
Yeah. I think last season's Champions League campaign, it was similar to this, where we were going in and we felt like we had everything kind of weighing on the front three and the offense, and the defense was kind of always in question. So this is a familiar feeling, although it has been a while since I've felt this way. But I have every confidence, obviously, by the score prediction that I made. I have every confidence that we're going to come out tomorrow and beat them. If not just because it's like a civil war in my family and I have to win.
I would say for your sake, I hope we get a good result.
Yeah, that's
a good night of sleep.
That is definitely intense. All the more reason to watch and root for the team tomorrow.
All right. Well, thank y'all for joining me to discuss this game, and I hope that we will be able to pick up a discussion of joyous celebration for the podcast review of the game in a few days. So everyone have a good night, and you'll never walk alone. Up the Reds.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, bye bye.